wrestling fans. My name is Brian Crazy.
I'm JC Styles.
And we're the F brand of wrestling and entertainment here on YouTube.com. Thanks for tuning in once again. We are back with our TNA Impact Wrestling review for May 17, 2012. Before we get started, please check out the official website of the F brand at FightNationWrestling.com and all the great social media accounts that make up the F brand. My personal Twitter, JC's personal Twitter, the Twitter for the page that you're currently watching this video on, at FNTrue Wrestling. All the links will be provided in the description box below. So we start off Impact Wrestling with the World's Heavyweight Champion, Robert Roode.
Yes, Robert Roode comes out, talks about his match and victory over RVD in the ladder match at Sacrifice, then talks about being the longest running world champion in TNA history, then talks about his big birthday bash, his longest champion run bash, has a list of demands that he wants for his party, calls out Hulk Hogan, gives Hogan the demands. Hogan then rips up the paper and says that we're going to have open fight night for the World Heavyweight Championship next week. We're going to see a list of 4 matches that are going to take place tonight. A battle royal. We will see RVD to take on Bully Ray, Hardy, Anderson, and Kurt Angle versus Samoa Joe.
Yeah, that's about it. I mean, I think JC summed it up pretty well. Hulk Hogan announced that next week will be the monthly open fight night. And on open fight night, everybody has to fight. It's a pretty interesting concept. I don't think they've ever done anything like that in professional wrestling, where basically anybody can come out and call out anybody throughout the whole period of the night, and they have to come out.
Exactly.
And there's no ifs, ands, or buts. If you're on the roster, you have to come out. Of course, all in storyline, guys, but for the story, we like to present this show from a storyline perspective. Of course, we're going to interject our thoughts in the facts, and if there's any news that we can bring at you. But when we're talking about the show, we're going to talk about the show as it was presented to us. I mean, it's the easiest. If I have to say every 2 seconds, we're referring to this in storyline, we're referring to this in storyline, I mean, it's just going to get old and it's going to get really, really repetitious. And we want to avoid that. We want to give you guys the best possible presentation. So we go into the first match. We see Bully Ray, Calfzilla, go against RVD, the man that was not victorious at Sacrifice, came so close to winning the World's Heavyweight title. And Bully Ray, who's been on a run as of late. I mean, he's kind of been the right-hand man to Robert Roode, but you can tell that there's been a lot of issues between those two, and Bully Ray feels like he's been taken advantage of. He really wants to break out, and he feels like it's his time. After his long run with Devon, it's his time to finally win that singles gold, finally become the World's Heavyweight Champion.
Yes, I mean, this match was very interesting. I mean, we had 2 old ECW originals in the ring, and it was just a solid match. There was one part where we saw Bubba Ray hit the Bubba Cutter during the match. I enjoyed it. I thought it was definitely interesting to see the 2 get in the ring. I think it could have been a little bit faster of a pace match, but not to take anything away, I thought it was a great match.
It definitely was a solid competition, I do have to say, and that's what the whole night was based on, was just solid competition. We saw a lot of great wrestling, and it's not that Impact hasn't been good as of late. It's just been, we've seen a lot of promo packages, a lot of short matches, and very similar in the WWE as of late. A lot of promos, a lot of short matches. And first things first, these are wrestling promotions. I understand entertainment is a very important aspect, and I understand that's part of the draw. It's sports entertainment, it's wrestling and entertainment, the promos, the music, everything adds to the whole feel. And hey, when you go to a live show or watch it on TV, all of that just adds to it. Imagine if you watch 2 hours of wrestling straight with no storyline, no, I'm not saying it would be particularly bad, but after a while,
it would be kind of stale.
It would be kind of stale. It would be kind of repetitious. So by adding the storylines, by adding that little bit of intrigue, by adding that mystery, it just adds to the overall product. We go into the next match, the 10-man battle royal featuring AJ Styles, Austin Aries, Robbie E, Robbie T, Devon, Garrett, Crimson, Magnus, Eric Young, and Gunner. And the one thing I do have to say before we even start talking about this match, Garrett Bischoff, he's a good competitor. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I think he's always going to carry that. He's Eric's son.
Yeah.
And I think Eric has been terribly misjudged in the wrestling world, but this isn't an Eric Bischoff defense video. This is an Impact review. But to quickly sum up my thoughts, Eric Bischoff has done a lot of good for the wrestling world. Yeah, maybe he's done some negative, and maybe, you know, with the whole talent thing in WCW could have been played out differently, and I think that's why in TNA he's kind of been hands-off on talent, more focused on the relations with the network, this, that, and the other. But Eric Bischoff's done a lot of good for professional wrestling, and if Vern Gagne thought he was okay, he's probably okay. But just say, his son is a very talented competitor, but one of the things we've seen in professional wrestling as of late is a lot of inconsistency.
Yeah.
We had Garrett break in. looked very strong, ended up picking up the win over Gunner in one of his first matches. Then he ends up losing to Gunner and basically getting his ass handed to him for a month. And tonight, he's taking it to Devon in the match like nothing ever happened. And I know Garrett's a good competitor. I understand that's how they had him booked. But just like on Monday Night Raw, not to throw in WWE on a TNA review, but we had the former world champion. We had The Miz going against Brodus Clay and losing. But a year ago,
he was WWE champion.
It's just like inconsistency. And the one thing about professional wrestling is the fans are getting smarter and smarter by the day. We have access to the internet. We have more and more of a feeling of what's going on, and also fans like us are cerebral. We're looking into the product. We're reviewing the product. We're looking what we like about the product, what we don't like about the product, this, that, or the other. And the inconsistencies, and then just like, okay, this guy had this gimmick last year, like, example, Ryback. We're supposed to forget Skip Sheffield ever existed.
Yeah.
Who was the Nexus? We don't even mention them anymore. Skip Sheffield? Who? He worked there? Got the wrong number.
Before we actually get further into the winner of the Battle Royal and the next segment following that, we actually saw a sit-down interview with King Mo and the president of TNA, Dixie Carter.
And also Bjorn Rebney, the president of Bellator Fighting Championships.
Exactly. Dixie sat down and explained why she wanted to go after King Mo, and King Mo talked about why he wanted to seek out wrestling. It was a good little sit-down interview, and then we went into the wild card battle.
Just by the few words that King Mo said, you can tell he's a very cerebral, very intelligent individual.
Exactly.
And I think it's very interesting that he's going to be one of the first MMA fighters, professional. I don't even know what to label him as, because he's more than that. He is not only going to be a wrestler, he's also going to be an MMA fighter. I mean, when have we seen someone compete? I guess Bobby Lashley, didn't he dab in MMA a little bit at the end of his TNA run?
Yes.
Okay. So I guess this would be, but full-time, like, he's going for both I mean, this is pretty big. I think this is going to be something different. I think it's something that's definitely going to help Impact Wrestling out in the long run. King Mo is very well known.
Yes.
And I think it's going to be pretty interesting. So the 10-man battle royal with all the participants I named a minute ago, there was a lot of action in this match. We actually saw tag team partners even turning against each other. Robbie E capitalized, got rid of Big Robbie T. The way AJ Styles, I kind of just ruined it, sorry, but the way that AJ Styles picked up the win, I mean, he scooped him up almost for like a Samoan drop, just walked him over to the ropes and said, bye.
Exactly. We see AJ pick up the win. He takes spot 2 in that 4-man match that we'll see next week. Then we move into the AJ segment. AJ's on the mic just getting ready to talk about the photos that were displayed last week on Impact. And then Kazarian and Daniels come out with an iPad with a video of Dixie and AJ going into a local hotel hand in hand. And as AJ sees the video, as we all are seeing the video, he kind of is left speechless and leaves the ring and doesn't say anything. And then we don't see AJ until later in the night after the last match. And, it's a good storyline, don't get me wrong, but we've seen storylines like this get way, way out of hand, and they just start coming up with stupid random ideas. Next thing you know, 3 weeks down the line, Daniels is going to wind up having some kind of relations with Dixie when he got signed to TNA. And I just hope before they get to that point in time, they will stop that storyline.
Well, I do agree. I don't think they should drag. You all right?
Thank you.
Oh, no, no. I don't think they should drag the storyline out too farther. I mean, we've seen the feud between AJ Styles and Daniels for quite some time, but I do like that in professional wrestling. The one thing that we have seen in the last couple of years is this kind of movement towards going towards longevity and storylines and title reigns once again. I mean, there was a period in time where we were seeing title reigns only going for a month or two. Now we're seeing a lot of title runs, especially TNA and WWE. Like CM Punk's had the title for several months now. Yeah. Robert Roode's held the title for several months. Daniel Bryan had a pretty lengthy run. And we're seeing them actually not only give these guys the opportunity to be the champion and be the flag bearer, but they're also kind of making a name for themselves as carrying that title, not in just a run for the title, carrying the title. But I do have to say that I don't think this feud should go too long, but I think it's a very interesting thing that's going on right now. I mean, the way they wrote this and made it work out is perfect. I mean, AJ Styles has climbed to the top of the mountain. Daniels and Kazarian never have been to that point, and AJ's been world champion 3 times, if I'm not mistaken.
I think 3 TNA world champions, and I think he was an NWA champion in 2005, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it's either 3 or 4 championship reigns. Well, we can confirm that afterwards and provide an annotation if necessary. But I understand where they're going. Quote unquote, he's the golden boy. And Kazarian Daniels, who are very talented, almost as talented as AJ Styles, why are we being held down? Why are we finally found the smoking gun? This is what our friend has been doing to us. It's a really interesting way to go.
It's an interesting story, but I just hope that they don't kill it and overdo it.
No, I don't want to see this all the way into December.
No,
I wouldn't mind.
Maybe a little bit past Slammiversary.
I wouldn't mind to see a continuing feud between the two superstars, because a nice, lengthy, several-month feud is always good if done properly.
Exactly.
But we have an interesting dynamic here. We have AJ on one side with Kazarian and Daniels on the other side, and kind of last week, Kurt Angle kind of joined forces with AJ and was kind of teasing maybe a potential tag team title match at Slammiversary. That was pretty interesting. So I'd like to actually see that happen. I think turning Kurt Angle face at this point would actually probably be good. We could have Kurt Angle as a face, maybe have a match against Rude in the future. I think it could work out well. Then we go into Knockouts action. Three-way dance for the Knockouts title. Gail Kim versus Velvet Sky versus Brooke Tessmacher. Absolutely beautiful women in this match. Can't complain when I'm watching them, but I think that's the biggest complaint. I wish it was a little bit longer. I wish that we saw just a little bit more out of each of these knockouts. Not that they gave a bad performance, because that's the one thing, guys, that me and JC Styles always believe in, is respecting the athlete. And I think they gave it, they gave it a good
effort.
A good effort, yeah, exactly. I was just trying to find the right word to, pair to my sentence. I think they gave it a good effort, but it could have been just a little more.
Yes. Again, I'm not really disappointed with the match. It could have been a little bit better. The way that the match ended, it was kind of my disappointment. But then again, Gail Kim is a heel, so she's going to win any way possible.
That is quite correct. She is going to win any way possible. And you got to think, between, those 4 huge matches we had tonight, you got to think it's only a 2-hour show, so they can only fit so much. And I understand that. And to be honest, this was a great knockouts match, and I believe they deserve the time to shine. But if they could have trimmed one segment a little bit more, I think they should have gave a little bit more time to the final match of the night, which we'll get to in just a minute.
Then we move into Anderson versus Jeff Hardy. This was a rematch from this past Sunday night, and this match kind of ended exactly something similar to the match that ended how it ended Sunday night. Vice versa, the roles were reversed. Ken Anderson's shoulders were down. Jeff Hardy had to roll up, and at the last minute, I could have swore I saw Anderson kick out very slightly, and they awarded the match to Jeff Hardy.
Very similar to the situation, like JC said, that happened at Sacrifice, where we saw exact role reversal, where we saw Ken Anderson pick up the semi-controversial win over Jeff Hardy. I mean, a win's a win, but he just wasn't happy how we got that win, and I'm sure Jeff Hardy is not going to be happy either, because him and Ken Anderson have a lot of history together, some good, some bad.
Exactly.
It's going to be interesting how this plays out. Then we go into the final match of the night. This was definitely match of the night. This was the one I was waiting for. As soon as Hulk Hogan says the matches that we were going to get tonight, I was like, okay, it's on. 10:45, whatever it is. I know this is going to be the main event. I can't wait to see it. And sure enough, Kurt Angle versus Samoa Joe. They fought some legendary matches. I think Kurt Angle was the first man to defeat Samoa Joe in TNA wrestling.
Yes, 2006, Bound for Glory. No, Genesis 2006.
Absolutely.
Bound for Glory, he made his first appearance in TNA.
I remember the first time you lent me that DVD, and absolutely phenomenal match, absolutely phenomenal. I enjoyed it so much, and I mean, just the amount of athleticism shown in tonight, you could tell that these guys, 6 years later, no different.
Exactly.
They could go just as well, and I really hope that TNA keeps moving in the direction of restoring Samoa Joe and AJ Styles back to contenders for the title. And if they're not going to immediately put them in the world title picture, this is where the television title can be very, very well used. It could be positioned above, example WWE, get a position above like the IC and US titles,
exactly,
right above the main title. And it could be for guys like AJ, Kaz, Daniels, Samoa Joe, whatever.
Crimson, Gunner.
Guys that have moved past the X Division, but are world title material, or getting to be world title material,
exactly,
like you said, like Crimson, Gunner. All the guys that are close. Well, if we let Crimson get the title, they'll probably have it for the next 2 years. But,
just briefly give my quick thoughts. Whenever you have Samoa Joe and Kurt Angle on the card, whether it's a pay-per-view or an Impact, or even at a house show, you're going to get a stellar performance from both competitors. Kurt Angle refuses to have a bad match. He is an Olympic gold medalist for that same reason. He refuses to have any stale
the
moments
sheer
in
determination
his match.
that this man has.
Exactly. Samoa Joe has the power. He's got the mean streak. He's got the athleticism for a big guy. And just, again, he brings it just as hard as Kurt Angle does, makes for a great match. And throughout all the battles that Kurt Angle and Samoa Joe have had since 2006, it just goes to show you that these two guys have no quit in them when they get in the ring against each other.
Exactly. I think JC said it best. I don't even really think I can add to that or top that, or I think JC just hit that one so on the head, so square right on the head of that nail. And that's about, it for the final match of the night. The one thing that I think me and you were talking about, because we were corresponding a little bit during Impact tonight, is that AJ Styles and Austin Aries, when they were in the ring together during that 10-man battle royal,
yes,
that was absolutely fire. It was poetry in motion. The ring awareness and the athleticism that these two competitors have were just world class.
Oh,
and I hope to
exactly.
see a future match between these two, because honestly, right now, they, I hate again to liken it to WWE, but they are the Daniel Bryan and the CM Punk of TNA wrestling.
Exactly. So with that being said, guys, please check out all the channels that make up the Effin brand of wrestling and entertainment here on YouTube.com. Also check out the official website of the Effin brand at www.fightnationwrestling.com. Also our personal Twitter accounts and the Twitter account for the channel that you are currently watching at Effin True Wrestling. Like us on Facebook at Effin True Wrestling. And guys, have a great night. We'll see you back tomorrow with SmackDown.
Yep, we'll see you back with Friday Night SmackDown. Have a great night, and as my broadcast colleague would say, have a safe morning commute.
Yes.